that live? I was on with Errol Musk and Andrew Earborn.
You were on
I
with
don't know.
Errol Musk?
Not Errol, yeah, Errol Musk. Yeah, yeah, Elon's dad. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've just
fantastic.
yeah. Was it live? No, it mustn't have been live. So I guess it goes out. I don't know. We've just done an interview on there, so I've literally just finished that. So apologies, I'm late, everyone.
No problem at all, mate. You know what? We were actually talking about Elon and Advance and all the rest of that. So I'm assuming that came up in your conversation that you had with them as well.
It actually did. It actually didn't. No,
All right.
no. We spoke about September 13th. We spoke about what happened at the train station. Spoke about the general uprising that's happening across the West. What's moved. We spoke about lots of things, but no, we didn't talk about Advance or what's happened there with Elon. No.
Well, we might get onto it tonight. Tommy, you obviously, I'm assuming you've been following what's been going on in Epping. I don't know if you saw the events that unfolded today. One of the organisers of the Epping protest has been arrested. Can I just ask you, when you heard the ruling the other day, were you shocked by it? Were you expecting it? And kind of how do you make of things that have gone across the country so far?
I think they're trying to provoke a reaction from the British public. I think there can be no other explanation for it. I actually think it's great that the public can get to see that they do not care about the public. They do not give a shit about us or our women. They do not care if your daughter's safe walking to school. What they care about is flooding this nation and demographically changing it. And they don't care about any shameless headlines. They don't care that the whole country can see it. They don't care that it's so blatant. They don't care. They're doing it and they're going full steam ahead with their plan. And Keir Starmer doesn't give a shit anyway because he's a globalist. He cares more about the world in general than he does about Britain. So, yeah, I actually think whilst it's a terrible decision for people in Epping, this is far bigger than Epping, because if they're successful in Epping, they're just going to move them to another hotel in another town. Yeah. And even the plan for Labour to get them out of the hotels, they're going to basically buy your next door neighbour's 3 or 4 bedroom house, put it into a HMO and stick 6 Afghans in there. So I just saw that BlackRock have invested £1 billion in the British housing market. Their Labour's plan is to take all of those migrants out of those hotels. They'll keep them coming in, and then they're going to put them into HMOs across the country. So instead of being in the hotels in your place, they're going to be next door to you anyway. Unvetted, undocumented Afghans, Somalis, Pakistanis, Iraqis are going to be in your houses next door, 6 men in the home. That's their plan. Yeah. So this is far bigger. Literally, we need the government to fall because another 3 years of this. But would it fall? So if the hotel was successful, I admire what that local community have done. They have shifted the overall window so much. You see the women that are taken to the streets, the pink ladies, they are changing everything so quick, so fast. You know, I sit there and watch. I just said it to them. I went to Ireland and I made a documentary, Plantation 2, Rise of the Celts. And when I went there, I wore a hidden camera. And then on the documentary, I interview women. How do you feel about the migrants? And you get the truth out of them because they're on the hidden camera. They all say they're scared. They all say they're terrified. They all say they're worried about rapes. People are being attacked. Then I said to them all, this was 3 years ago, 2 years, 2.5 years ago. Then I said to them all, right, I'm a journalist. Let me get a camera out. Can you say that on camera? None of those women would speak on camera. There has been a gigantic shift in public opinion and courage because right now, those same women, I know this was in Ireland, but they're saying it across this country. Do you know that satisfaction I'm sitting there watching as I watch well-educated, clearly well-to-do women, clearly decent, hard-working women just speaking the truth, standing, speaking up, and armies of them. So I think that there's been a shift. I know everyone's devastated with what's happened in Epping. It's far bigger than Epping. If they were successful in Epping and the problem went away for Epping, and I think that all it's done is highlight to the entire country, they don't give a shit about your daughter. They don't care about your daughters going to school in school uniforms and getting sexually abused. They don't care. In that one hotel in Epping, you've had the sexual assaults against the children. You've had the man entering random woman's home and then the daughter getting charged with attempting with a weapon or something, attempting to attack him. The entire community is under siege from men that the government are forcing into their community. Let the world see it. It's all playing out. Yeah, that all these things unfortunately have to happen. Lucy Connolly, I've said it many times, she had to go to prison in order for mums to see it. The British public had to see it. They had to see the injustice. They had to. Sometimes you don't have to. You have to see it. You have to feel it. I had to go to jail. It's all beneficial. Yeah, it's shit at the time. Families are devastated. I remember speaking to so many families. I spoke to mums whose sons have been put in jail after the riots. I said, I know this is not going to be any consolation to you. I know you're scared as a mother, because my mother is, yeah? But this had to happen. People had to see Keir Starmer weaponise the judiciary. They had to see the unfair treatment. All of this now, you see the rising that's happening, the bubble that's happening from the British, the revolt that's coming, the probably million people who are going to descend on London. None of this, all of these things are happening because of those consequences. They're all happening because of that. So yeah, I think it's bad what's happened to the local community, but I think for our cause in the mass awakening, they've dug their own hole again. They're awakening more people with their decision. That's what I think.
And you mentioned there the kind of politicization of the judiciary and the police and all the rest of it. Now, you've been talking about this for decades, right? I'm well aware of that. But for many people, obviously, this is a kind of rude awakening. They've always thought that, the British legal system is fair and all the rest of it. But we've seen so many incidences of this just not being the case, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore. I mean, a good friend of mine who you're aware of, Craig Houston up in Scotland, obviously what happened with him recently. And that just seems like a political hit job to me. And I was just wondering, when you see the politicisation of the police and the way in which they've just kind of conformed to, I don't think it's even a political party, it's just the establishment. They're willing to just turn a blind eye to all these things. Do you think the police are savable? Do you think that many police officers are against this stuff? Or are they just kind of so indoctrinated, this is just the status quo now?
No, I believe there's a big shift going on within the police as well. I believe there is. I know we're seeing the footage here of the police fighting with our supporters tonight, but I can only go with the conversations I've had with the Met in my dealing with them for our demonstrations, for the last 4 demonstrations. We have a lot of briefings, we have a lot of meetings, we have a lot of discussions. I can only go by when I was arrested on the 26th of October, when I was in Felixstowe Police Station, all of the officers there. When I was recently arrested on the charge at St Pancras, all of the officers there. Couldn't be more on side. Couldn't remember. Look, I've had lots of discussions. Remember, they see this. They know how bad the situation is. They know how their hands are tied behind the back. They know the only person getting promoted is a black disabled lesbian. Yeah? They know this. They see it. So to the decent, hardworking coppers who joined for the right reason, they're as pissed off as us. Yeah? I know people are seeing these scenes, but I can only go by what the officers I'm talking to. And many of the times, the police are weaponised or politicised. So in our demonstrations, for example, on St George's Day, and the demonstrations that I watched in London after the riots, because then the police hierarchy can put in orders to block roads, to stop people going here. Now, when the police try and stop them, that causes the clash. That's orchestrated, that's planned. Now, I've learned this and know this from all the demonstrations I've done and what I've done. So that's why in these last 3-4 demonstrations, you haven't seen a clash. Because we've stuck to every word. Now, if we tried to turn off a road, so on St George's Day, when I won the court case the other year, year before, when I won the court case and Danny Tomo was doing a gathering and there was an event on St George's Day in London, and the police clashed with everyone because there was no organised route for that gathering. So when the crowds were walking, that then gave the Metropolitan Police the ability to say, block that road. Now, they want the confrontation, remember, the hierarchy of the police do. So then they can give the orders to block the road and our supporters can walk straight into that trap. Yeah. So many of them are traps. The demonstrations I saw after Southport in London, when the lads turned up in London and they all got kettled in, the police fog, it's a trap. It's a trap. Now, people keep saying about, so I know by working, I remember I've organised, 60, 80, 100 demonstrations. I've seen it. I know how they work. I know what you can do, what you can't do, and how they purposely provoke reaction. All I can say right now is they are purposely provoking reaction across the country as I'm watching it. And that won't be the individual officer on the street. That will be the officers who are, I don't know what plans go on with police officers. I don't know what the negotiations are going on behind the scenes, whether people are deterring from the routes, whether they're breaking the agreements they had with the police. I don't know what's going on because I'm not on the ground at all these demonstrations. But I know on our demonstrations, if we stick to our roots and we do what we've done for the last 3, it's been a success. Yeah. So I can only go off what we're doing, because I'm not in any of the meetings or the briefings or the negotiations and the people who are holding these protests outside hotels. So I don't really know what's going on there. I don't know if the police are being bang out of order. It looks like they are, but I don't know if that's decisions coming from above them who are making them do that, which is what's happened for so many of our demonstrations in London. They were purposely pitting us against each other. They were causing clashes between patriots and police officers. You remember the day when we turned up, and I learned this from, you remember Armitage Day when we turned up and we all walked down the road and they blocked the road for where people were coming in? Well, there was no negotiations with the police, so that gives them the opportunity to do that. For example, when and remember, I record every meeting now with the police. We record everything. Yeah. So, for example, when we turn up for our next demonstration, if they block the road or one of the roads that we're walking down, we've got all the evidence that we've actually agreed everything. Yeah? They can't then put the police in the way of that road. In fact, we've done the total opposite. As we've walked the route the other day, you may have seen, we've asked, where will your police officers be on this route? Well, they'll be here. Sound, we'll put 20 stewards in front of them then. Yeah, to block any chance of a provocation. The only I see a risk is outside Downing Street on our demonstration day. I don't know if you watched the live stream we've done with them. We want to make sure, and I'll tell you why this is. Some people say, yeah, well, we need a big riot. They don't care about 10,000 lads, men, yeah, and they don't care, especially if you're wearing balaclavas and masks, because they can delegitimize the legitimacy of your message. They can do that using the weapon they own, which is the media, and they can push that weapon and those images across the country. And the average Brit or average mum will sit and just think thugs or hooligans or racists. Yeah? That's what they can do. They can't do that with the numbers we're bringing, with all the media we're bringing, with the behaviour which we've had at all previous rallies. So our numbers are doubling, quadrupling, trebling, whatever they're doing, because we've been peaceful, because we've had a successful event. Yeah, and I watched what just happened today in Australia, where they allowed white supremacists to take over the microphone. I think when they do their next event, many people won't turn up because they don't want to be associated with that. They don't want to. That's why now even the imagery. I don't want people turn up to this event wearing balaclavas. Just don't want it. Don't want flares. Don't want smoke grenades. Don't want any of that. Want a family day, a celebration. Do you know when people riot and people put on balaclavas? Because I did it. We put on balaclavas in Luton and we charged through the streets of Luton because we didn't have a voice and no one was listening to us. Now, I know the government aren't listening, but we have a voice on the 13th of September. It's going to be the biggest voice in the world. We have a voice that's being listened to by the Trump administration. We have a voice that every single major political anti-immigration populist party are sending representatives to talk to the British public. Yeah? We have a voice where if we're successful in this, we can probably have world leaders at the next one. The British public are going to dictate the whole debate around immigration for Europe. It's happening on the streets of London. And people think, what difference does that make? Trust me, it's making a difference. It's going to make a difference. The media are relevant. So that's my view on it. I think the police are purposely trying to provoke reaction, and if you give them what they want, I know it's hard and it's frustrating because they're being provoked, but on our demonstration day, we really have to control ourselves, even in the face of provocation, if that happens, because that is exactly what they want. And I really, after so many years being involved in this, after 15 years of feeling like I'm banging my head against the wall, and then sitting back now and watching so excitedly what's developing with the public, the country's awake. The people are awake. I can't believe it. I went to a wedding yesterday, yeah? I went to a wedding, and there's a village not far from Luton called Todden. It's a small, titchy village. There's a WhatsApp group, the lad showed me, with 100 people in it, and they've organised all their travel. This is a little village. There's 100 of them. Organised their travel from that village to London. I know my mate in Daventry, there's 120 of them. I'm speaking to people everywhere. I went to another wedding in Biggleswade about a month ago, and the whole place is coming. Everywhere I'm going, not just usually, it used to be lads, and lads are like, no, my mum's coming, my auntie's coming. Families are coming. So we've successfully did that, yeah? And we haven't done that through charging through streets and throwing bricks and smashing shit up. We've done that through civilised, organised events which were fun, yeah, and which gave people back that sense of camaraderie and that sense of identity. And that's what we're going to do on September 13th. I think this is a watershed moment for Britain. I really do. I'm not just overplaying it. I really do. And I think the numbers are going to shock us. The biggest problem we've got, I think, is people might travel from all over the country. I don't even know if they're going to fit in that road. Where in hindsight, because we did try originally, we asked about it for Hyde Park. We should have had Hyde Park, but we refused that, like we refused Trafalgar Square. But if on another one, maybe we'll go through lawyers to make sure we can get Hyde Park, because I actually think the numbers are going to shock everybody. Something huge is currently happening in Britain. And I say that because I've been involved in it for so long. I've seen the mood of the country. I gauge reaction when I walk places. What's currently happening is insane. It's insane. Lawrence Fox was on some little Greek island. He said, mate, the whole fucking place is talking to me about September 13th. The whole place. So that date and that event in London has been publicised so well. The word is out there. And all these things have led up to it. This resulted in Epping the other day. All that's going to do is strive people more. We just need to make sure, because I understand how emotional people feel, how passionate they feel, and how angry they feel. We, as a movement, really need to harness, control, and direct that anger in the right way. And if we do that right on September 13th, Keir Starmer is going to be sitting there. We could see the fall of his government, at the start of the fall of his government. So, yeah, and which is what we all want and what this country's needs. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm tired. I haven't stopped talking about this subject. I've been doing non-stop. I've got another one after this as well. But I think we all need to, everyone needs to realise the magnitude of what's currently happening, and also the importance of it. The importance of it, and everyone as well. Congratulate. You see all the people. If you're one of the people who have took to the streets in the last coming months, you have inspired. Even the scenes that happen in Australia, I don't think that'd be happening without what's happening here with Raise the Flags and the protests. It's inspiring people worldwide. Protests across Japan, the protest scenes across Europe. If we're successful on 30th September, I've watched for years. Yeah, in fact, this is why I get pretty pissed off with Farage, because even when Farage had UKIP, there was a group of the populist parties, the anti-immigration parties, were uniting in the European Union. And Farage refused to be part of it because they're all far right. Well, those so-called far right groups are now the groups that are governing their nations. Yeah. So, but I've always watched as this has gone on and thought, why is no one united them? Why are all of these political parties or these populist and nationalist organisations, why are they not working together? Why, when we're demonstrating in London, for example, on the 13th of September, is not every fucking capital city in Europe demonstrating? If you really want to hit the European Union and you really want to show unity, if we can get to that goal. Now, we have lead party members coming from the AFD. We have the leaders of the Danish People's Party, the leaders of Lams Blanc from Belgium. We have the leader, Eric Zemmour, coming from France. We have lots of leaders coming from European parties, and hopefully we, as the British public, inspire their populations. Because at the minute, I'm talking to some of those politicians, and they said, what you're doing in Britain is unthinkable in our country. To have right-wing politics and supporters and groups in the numbers they are on the street. So, as I said, it's a massive moment, and it would be great to see all these nationalist groups. I've had the leader of Vox in contact. This is a Spanish party who will end up governing Spain. There's no two ways about it. It's the only solution. Like Geert Wilders is now winning the election, and they're going to have another election now. But this is the future of European politics. The future, with the help of the Trump administration, is anti-immigration, populist, nationalist, who care about their own people first. So yeah, we've gone on a rant again. Sorry, guys.
No, I love it. And I have to say, they were brilliant days out. Everybody I met was absolutely brilliant, and I can't thank you enough for what you are doing. And this time I've got sisters, cousins, all sorts of people traveling up with me. They're not ashamed to go now. They know how critical this is. Tommy, I think lawfare has been absolutely and utterly abused and used against you, and it disgusts me. But something that is a deep concern, and I would just love your feedback on it, is what is actually happening in our prisons, because I know it's bad, but I don't think people really understand how bad it is.
Sorry, no, I don't think anyone understands quite how drastic the situation is in there. They're building an army. They are building and converting an army of the toughest. Remember, most people in jail have been wronged their whole life. I remember I'd done a parenting course in Winchester Prison. And if you've done the parenting course, what was I there for? 6 months? 2015 is when I went to Woodhill, got battered in Woodhill, and I got transferred to Winchester. And I come out of my cell in Winchester, and it was the first time, and I had 4 English lads there, and they said, "We've got your back, Tommy." I remember feeling like the weight of the world just come off my shoulders, because I knew I weren't on my own. And I had a good sentence. In there. But when I was in there, what was I? Fucking my mind's gone blank there. When I was in there, I went to Winchester, and I don't know, I've just lost where I was at, which I don't usually do. Do you know what? Do you want me to tell you the truth before I lost where I was at? Because I'm looking at one of those Dubai chocolate cakes.
You've been posting loads of things.
If I could take a picture, I'm sitting there looking out on the plate, and I've lost my total train of thought.
I'm not being funny, but if someone caught your channel on the wrong days, they think you were some sort of cooking show or something. The amount of stuff you
on the Andrew Airborne show with Errol Musk, that's what he said. He started bringing up pictures of all my food and that. show him a roast dinner from today. I
Well-
said I actually had two roast dinners.
What,
But,
once you've saved the country, Tommy, we can go. That's your next venue. Venture you can go into.
But no, the prison situation, it's far worse than you could even imagine, man. Like, they control everything. The radicalisation, the numbers, and that's what I was talking about. I've done the parenting course. So say there's like 12 lads, all prisoners. And I've done the course because at the end of the course, you get your children come in on a family visit. So they can spend like 3 or 4 hours and you get a bit more freedom with them. And when I sat around that table on that course, all the men told their stories. And I become good friends with some of these lads. I'm still friends with them now. When you heard their stories, man, I've had an all right upbringing. I've had a drug addict mothers to care, failed at every single opportunity. Yeah, failed everywhere. So that everyone has a reason. Sat there looking at these men thinking, yeah, I'd be in the same path as you probably. Do you know what I mean? They had no chance. So when you take people who have been wrong their whole life, had no chance their whole life, haven't really had the family units and the structure that many of us have had, Islam gives them it. So they come into a prison system. They're angry anyway. They're angry with the system. Islam brings them in, gives them that sense. And it's very easily to do to the blacks because of historical slavery or racism. Blame everything on the system. Yeah. And then Islam is the fight against the system. Now, the control they have. So I just interviewed officers every chance I got. Speaking to prison officers in Woodhill, the brothers, as they're described, they're the Muslims that run the jail, the religious mafia. They said that when they're doing 30 or 40 years, some of these men, it's nothing to stick a knife in a prison officer. If the prison officers upset the brothers, they just put a hit on them. So they said, then that's it for the prison officer. He knows he's getting carved up. So if you're a prison officer, remember these officers are normal mums and dads and men and women, just normal people. You're in there, you're trying to manage the most dangerous men in the country, who are all now become radical jihadists. And if you upset them, yeah, so if dads, normal bods, they haven't got the support. These men should be on solitary confinement. There should be 6 officer unlock. Do you know how many officers are on a wing of 60 prisoners in Woodhill? Bearing in mind 50% of Woodhill are in for murder and 40% of them are Muslim. How many prison officers do you think manage a wing of 60 inmates? 3 or 4.
Wow.
3 or 4 officers. I had 2 officers. I had 2 officers every time they opened my door. So I had half the fucking officers that a whole wing full of 60 inmates has. So of course they run the prisons. Of course it's run and dominated by the prisoners. There's not enough. And out of those staff, you're not talking about 6'4" bodybuilders dealing with them, just normal bods. Many of them are gimps. Many of them are little geeks. I couldn't believe some of them were 18, 19 years old. Do you know the turnaround in prison officers in Woodhill Prison? 90% prison officers leave in the first 2 years. 90% turnaround in staff. No one keeps a job because they're getting battered. They're getting hurt. Now, when I was in jail, you heard about Salman Abdi's brother's attack. Then you heard about the stabbing of the officer in Woodhill when I was there. Then you heard about the attack at Long Lartin of the officer and another jihadist attack. But you only heard about those other attacks because the Salman Abdi's brother's attack was so high profile, they couldn't hide it. Because these attacks are happening week in, week out to staff. So the problem is that bad. They've took over the whole prison system. But the real problem is the recruitment. It's literally a recruitment dream for Islam. And they are radicalising 800 a year, I think the security services estimate, come out radicalised from prison each year. And then they're coming out. And when you're in the English speaking, because most mosques in cities, the English speaking mosques are the Wahhabi and Salafist mosques full of all the converts. They're the jihadist mosques. They're the Qatari funded, Saudi funded mosques. So it's a massive problem. Public don't get it. And the reason why it's a problem is because white boys or non-Muslims are being bullied through the whole prison system. So then they're converting, but it's not just little geeks that are converting, real players, big, heavy players. And the other thing, which I want to do a documentary on, I've been sidelined on it. I've got contact with prisoners who are segregated in Belmarsh, segregated in Long Lartin, segregated in many prisons, yeah? And there was a gang that formed in Frankland. They called themselves the Piranhas, or they were named by a governor called the Piranhas. And they were mainly a Liverpool group, Scousers. And they stood up when in Franklin, because in the dispersal jails, most of them are 30 to 40% Muslim. The one residing, when I say dispersal, they're the maximum security jails for the serious offenders. Yeah. So and Franklin was the last stronghold that wasn't controlled by the brothers. The only jail in the country that wasn't controlled by the brothers in the dispersals. And there was a fight back. When they tried to radicalise and convert and bully, the Scousers fought them back. There's a man called Ashton, yeah, who was the main lad. And I know these stories because I've heard them anyway. But when I spent my time in Woodhill, the officers who took me every day, one of the officers was from Franklin, because they had about 20 or 30 officers from Franklin working at Woodhill because they can't get the staff. So they come down, stay in hotels and work there. So these staff had seen everything. They told me the whole story of how it developed, what happened, who the piranhas were. So the piranhas stood up and fought, and they fought back, and they were hurting the terrorists. So when the terrorists were coming in and trying to radicalise, there was basically a war going on in the prison system in Franklin. Now, what the prison authorities done was smashed the piranhas. So they sent them to these other jails, and they were getting hurt and fighting back. So there was a little war going on, mainly with Scousers. And then one of the Kinahan lot in the documentary, he got put into Woodhill. He's ironed a Muslim out. He's then been put to Belmarsh. I think the main Muslim lad in Belmarsh was called Chaos. He's ironed him out. He's now been down the seg for 19 months. So I spent 7 months on solitary. There's a forgotten group of prisoners who are serving years and years in prison. Now, that prisoner I'm on about has got another 6 years left. He's stuck on solitary confinement. The same way when I went into the prison system, they said, you can't go anywhere because you're going to get killed. That's what they've had to say to all these lads. So there's a whole group of prisoners who are English, who are the only group of men who stood up against the Islamisation of the prison system. And they're not even known. They're forgotten, and they're sitting in solitary confinement in the dungeons of jails across our country. I want to, and I'm going to do a documentary on this story, yeah, and a demand for the human rights of these men. And the reason being that in the prison system, you have the separation units, which were built for the jihadists, which is what Salman Abdi's brother was on up in Durham when they attacked 8 of them. Anjan Chowdhury was one of the prisoners when he stabbed up the 3 officers, one of them being a female. He was on a separation unit. So separation units are built where they have their own gym, they have their own pool table, they have their own exercise yard, and they're all together. So they're all together as a group, having a good time. What all these jihadists are, whilst the only group of men who stood up against this are rotting on solitary confinement for years and years and years, and no one's fighting for them. They've got no lawyers. You see the Muslims, you know, when I was in, they bought all the Muslims after the attack in Franklin. Was it Franklin or Durham? After the attack by Salman Abdi's group, Anjan Chowdhury, 7 or 8 of them, they brought them straight to Woodhill, to the separation unit, which was what I was allowed to use for my gym. So I lost my gym. They brought them all there, and they had a 6-officer unlock. And what they had to do, the Muslims had to go to the back of the cell. They had to lift up their T-shirt. They had to show them around their waist before they'd unlock the door. And they were only allowed out on their own. Yeah. So they might have had 8 of them on. There's 16 cells there. They had 8 of them on the unit. They shipped Chowdhury straight out the next day. So they had 7 prisoners left. They weren't allowed to mix together or see each other, and that lasted for about 6 weeks. Because then, as the prison were telling me, all of their lawyers, they have all these fucking Muslim law firms, and they all jump on their human rights and violations to start suing the prison. There is no one fighting for the English lads who are rotting away in jails for trying to stand up to the Islamic takeover of our prison system. And those men, when I think about it, 19 months he's done on solitary, one of the lads in Belmarsh, and they're not allowed out. So they just keep them in 23.5-hour lockup on their own in a prison system, because they know they will get killed if they go to any prison. Do you know, in the investigation in Franklin prison, they found that when they moved one from Franklin to another prison, then Muslim lawyers would then visit a Muslim in the other prison to pass the message on to serve them up. They've had the names of all the Muslim lawyers, which were acting as go-betweens, traveling around the country, making sure that the group that were resisting were getting hurt in jail, stabbed up, chopped up, smashed up. One lad got beheaded, didn't he, in Woodhill prison. So there is a whole story to tell on our prison system, but I think the biggest story, and the men that need our help, are the English men that tried to resist it. And they are forgotten about. They're a group called the Piranhas. Which I've got here, when I was in prison. So one of the main piranha is on solitary with Charles Bronson. I got a letter off Charles Bronson, and he drew me an artist drawing about a day in the life of a lifer, and it had the prisoner's name, who's the piranha lad, had his name on the door. And there is already, I know I'm going to make a fabulous documentary on this. It's just, I feel like I've let the lads down already, because since coming out of jail, I wanted to launch and do the documentary on the episode 6. I wanted to do this. I started trying to do and talk and line up too many things, and I wasn't ready for it. I had to concentrate on one thing, and even now, that's what I said. I have to concentrate on September 13th. I have to get September 13th out of the way, and then I've got October 13th, which is my terrorism trial. But there's a whole story to be told. And you know, I don't know if you saw when I released the recordings where you could hear the jihadists who attacked the member, the prisoner in Long Lartin. And because I've now got access to staff and prisoners in segregated units in many of the major dispersal units to tell this story, which is something I started working on. But literally, I've had to just put everything on the back burner. But that, if people could see what's going on in our prison system, it would terrify this nation, terrify them, because everyone's converting. Everyone. They're building an army.
That is actually completely terrifying. And I think that would be a brilliant documentary. But on the subject of documentaries, I understand at the moment you're doing a documentary on the Labour Party. How's that going, and what motivated you to get stuck in there?
So that is what I put on the back burner. Crazily, when I was in jail, I was sat in Woodhill. I got my team to come in. Sammy Woodhouse come in. She come in with it was our editor and the whole team from Urban Scoop. And it was my first meeting with them. And I said, right, I'll get out on the 25th of July. I'm going to pick the date at September 13th, our first event. I want you to contact Jordan Peterson. I want you to contact all these people. And I just asked the editor, when I come out, can we produce a documentary, episode 6, by the 13th of September to play at the event? He said, yeah, we can. So I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I was going to come out, set fucking 9 months of solitary confinement, and then just bang in and start making documentaries and running around the country. When I did get out after 7 months, I think I went to see Vicky's mum in London. I was a mess. I was on edge, ready to explode, fucking nervous. I was a mess, yeah? So I sort of then realised, shit, I'm not in a great place here. I can't function properly like I should be able to. And I started trying to do too many things. So I sort of then put everything, I just said, look, I can't do that. If we've got the event, I'm so lucky that I had these months before September 13th. If I'd have come out on 25th of July and been doing this, trying to publicise and organise this event, I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I don't know what I was thinking. But I thought, and then when I come out, obviously, like last time, I realised I'm not right. I know I'm not right. I'm not right in myself. But everything I was feeling and the way I feel and all the problems it's natural, because I know I've read up about how I should feel from solitary confinement. So that went on the back burner. Yeah, I've got the story. It's already told. I know what I'm doing. I know the interviews I need left to do. The story is about the Labour Party. It's about the cover-up of the grooming scandal. It's about Telford. It's about, we've got one of their MPs banged to rights. We've got the Labour mayor locally there involved in the grooming gangs. We've got loads of shit all over the country on them. But the story is, everyone knows of Muslim rape gangs. That's now common practice. We need to know that they were Labour's Muslim rape gangs. Not just rape gangs, they're Labour's. And Labour are involved. Their politicians are involved. Their councillors are involved. They're involved in covering it up. They're involved in the rapes in all towns and cities. So that is the documentary, to tell that story. But just being honest, I put everything on the back burner. I stopped that. I stopped the prison one. I just said to them all, I'm sorry, to do it properly or to make September 13th the success we want it to be. I just need to be focused on that. And I'm putting fires out every day with regard to September 13th. It's gone from £106,000 to an event which I thought we would never raise at the start. I thought, that's an insane amount. Is it worth that? I'm asking myself all these questions. It's got bigger and bigger and more problems and more road closures that I've just ordered. I sat down this week and said, how could they stop this? Because that's all. I'm paranoid about it. Sorry, I got cut off there. I said, how someone was ringing me, but I said, how could they stop this? They could cut the power. Right, we need massive generators. We need total backup generators. So I'm making all these things because I just want it to be a success. I don't want there to be any flaws. I want everyone to hear. We've got a 200 kilowatt, whatever it is, speaker system. Festivals have 70,000. We've got 200,000. But I still don't think we're going to have, I still think so many people are going to turn up. I just don't know if it's going to, I don't know. I think it's a great problem to have, is that there's going to be such a show of the British public. We just need to manage it.
It is a great problem to have, to be fair. The numbers, I mean, some of the numbers I've seen that people are predicting eye-watering. But Tommy, just on the documentary about the Labour Party, I mean, it might actually kind of benefit you in a way if it is somewhat delayed, because obviously this government, I mean, people forget, it feels like a lifetime we've had with them, but it's only been 1 year and they've got more to go. And one thing that we know that is coming from them, and they've said that they've got the committee set up. Now, I don't know if you remember this, you probably don't, but about a year ago, I actually spoke to you in a space that was being run by Charlie Sansom. And I've mentioned to you about this Islamophobia definition that they're going to bring in. And you were shocked. And you said, I think you turned around and said, you might as well just take my prison number now, because I'll break all of those rules about what you can say about Islam. But the truth is, they are going ahead with this, right? And this is going to happen. And some of the things that are rumoured, I mean, if you actually look at the Labour Party membership rules, they already have this Islamophobia definition in place for Labour Party members. So it looks like they're just going to apply this to the rest of the country. And I'm just wondering, do you think the Labour Party are aware of what they're doing by basically protecting Islam? They must at this point realise that the Muslim vote is drifting away from them. It's not hardcore enough, and they've found their own kind of Islamists that they want to support, and the new hard left that they want to get with. So why do you think that they kind of still go ahead with this thing of like, well, it doesn't matter if we destroy the country, we just need to keep in power for as long as possible?
Well, maybe because you see, they work in a military fashion, the Islamic community. In Luton, I remember the leader of the council of mosques was having a meeting with the Labour Council to secure their 40,000 votes. So they do a deal. Yeah, maybe bringing in the Islamophobia bill is part of the deal to regain the Muslim vote. Maybe that's what pulls them back from Hezbollah. Maybe that's the agreement. Who knows? But I do know that if they did bring in the Islamophobia definition, and there were ways to break it, then we would have to have an event and 3,000 people break it at the same time. One by one, get up and break it. Because that's the only thing we can do. That's what I'd do. I'd break it tomorrow.
Do you
If they
remember
brought
when
in something that prohibited my speech from telling the truth about Islam, I would go straight away and tell the truth. And by telling the truth, if you've done it alone, you leave yourself susceptible to the prosecution. But if 3, 4, 5,000 people stood up and one by one done exactly the same, it would bring it to a head. I don't know if they will. I think the mood of this country's changed so much. I don't know. Like look on Grok, yeah, and look how many tweets Keir Starmer has put out against all, just totally against immigration. So Keir Starmer has put out 33 tweets condemning illegal immigration and talking about deporting people. Like, it doesn't matter what he's putting out because no one fucking listens. No one cares what he says, yeah. We don't believe him, yeah. But that is a massive shift. So Labour know they're in trouble. His days are numbered. Yeah, his days are numbered. The country has shifted in opinion. If he brings in some Islamophobia bill now, he's already finished. So maybe they're going that hard line because they know they've got this little bit of control. They want to make sure they can do as much damage as they can. I don't know, but I don't know. But the Islamophobia bill, the only answer we have to that is to break it.
I was just going to say, do you remember when J.K. Rowling broke the transphobia
Yeah,
law?
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
She done it in Scotland. Yeah, she done it in Scotland. They didn't prosecute her. She done it in Scotland, which is essentially that's what I'm saying. That's what we'd have to do as a public. You'd have to do that. You'd have to do that in response to it, to call it to its head. Because if not, if you don't do that, people will get picked off one by one, and they'll pick them off on little things and people who we don't know, innocent people, and then that will install the fear which controls the speech anyway, and then people just won't talk about Islam because they're too scared. So.
Brilliant. Tommy, you recently joined Advance UK, and there was a little bit of a backlash there. But what made you join Advance, and what's it been like with that backlash? How are you countering that?
When I was in jail, many people left Advance over councillors in protest over Nigel Farage and his lies and how he reacted. I watched what happened to Howard Cox. I'd never met Howard Cox. Howard Cox had never met me. He didn't even speak up for me. He just spoke up for some of the things I've stood up for. Yeah. So when I watched the way they treated him, I felt bad and I felt a bit guilty. And I saw that he was kicked out of the party. And then I saw other gentlemen, and I was watching as many of these people stood by their principles in their defence of some of the actions I've done, and they were punished and abused. And obviously I felt upset about that for a long time. And I know Ben Habib gave interviews about me when I was in jail. And I know that, again, whether it was standing up for me, again, I think he was standing up for free speech and standing up and telling the truth about a politically motivated case. So I had respect. And then a lot of people, what a lot of people don't realise is in each one of my documentaries, there's been some gentleman, Christian gentleman, who none of the Rape of Britain series would have happened without their involvement. Okay, so you get to see my finished product, but the encouragement I faced, the encouragement that brought that documentary about, didn't come from me. Yeah, if I'm just being honest, it come from some other. I'd say probably one of the best men I've ever met, and one of the nicest and kindest men, and someone who I put total trust in, and I know that they are heavily involved in around Ben Habib. So that brought me to the table. I then looked at what Nigel Farage was laughing, basically. Nigel Farage was laughing at Ben Habib, laughing at Advance, and laughing at Rupert Lowe. Because what he knows is that the British public are angry. They've got no one else to vote for. You can, and if you've got no one else to vote for, you basically, he can weaken himself on all the policies. He can turn into another uni party. He can soften his approach because there's no one taking his vote. It doesn't matter. He didn't care. He actually was laughing and so dismissive of them. Well, you see, when we politicise a generation and we galvanise the 20 million that didn't vote, when we start targeting them and we give the working class a sense of identity and belief and let them know there is a political home that's going to stand up for you and it's not going to back down and it's not going to go weak. So I had that vision, yeah. And then I sat down and met Ben Habib. And I'd looked through a lot of Ben Habib stuff. And I respected him. And I saw a party that was going to be, and I saw Howard Cox, and I saw lots of other people who had been ill-treated who had joined this party. And I knew about the team. And what I believe is that if Nigel Farage is sitting in the town city, and in 3 years' time, his position or Reform's position is put in danger by Advance, he's going to have to shift anyway. So that originally that was my thought, and then I looked and I thought, and I saw that the way our supporters were described as that lot, and then I saw our supporters being shouted at by Lee Anderson for trying to speak up about my imprisonment. I saw him so dismissive. I lost all respect for many people who were at the height of Reform, and then I watched as Nigel Farage changed his view on Shamina Begum. I watched as a position was given to Zia Youssef for £200,000, basically bought his position. I then watched as and some Reform supporters might not like hearing this, but Nigel Farage said he doesn't care about the demographic change of this country. Doesn't care. That's his words. Doesn't care. He then said he wouldn't do mass deportations and it's not his goal. This is his words. He then said he'll be left of the Conservative Party by the next election on immigration. Again, these are his words. His party now want men to be in women's prisons. Again, these are his words. So when Reform supporters are getting pretty upset with me in a minute, I've not changed. Like, it's Nigel who's bent his knee on everything. Now, Nigel's always bent his knee. That's what they don't realise. Nigel's never shifted the overall window. He waits for the overall window to shift and then starts talking about an issue. He's never brought that issue to change. He's never talked about Islam ever. Yeah. And then people say, oh, he's just being clever. Well, Geert Wilders didn't just be clever. Geert Wilders was brave and courageous and stood on his principles for the last 20 years. And now he's winning elections. Donald Trump wasn't just being politically correct and being a pussy. Donald Trump said what he's going to do and then got a mandate of the public to do it. Nigel Farage is just a pussy and he's weak and he wants to be liked by the media. He's still sitting doing interviews on Channel 4. What world is he living in? It's a clown. Like, why are you even sitting down on Channel 4? You should be sitting on the podcast of all the upcoming podcasts. That's what he should be doing. It's what Donald Trump done. He ignored all the 60 Minutes, or was it 60 Minutes? He ignored them. Sat down and done the youth in the podcasts. Yeah, because there's a new world out there. Nigel's 5 years behind. Still trying to please the media, still doesn't want to be called a name by the media or labelled as far right. Do you remember the description he gave after the Brexit rally to the tattooed thugs, tattooed all over their arms? It's like, what school did Nigel go to? Nigel went to an elitist private school. What school did Richard Tice go to? He's a trust fund kid. Yeah? What do you think these people actually know about our life, about what it's like? Do you think Nigel Farage has ever been in a working class estate after 7 p.m? I don't think he cares. So Nigel Farage is a city banker. I honestly don't think he cares. I think his point of beer. But I never went in on Nigel Farage because I knew loads of people believed in him. I've known this for years about Nigel. Yeah, I've known it because I speak to people close around his team. I know what he's like. Yeah, I know what his history was like. I know what he was like in Brussels. I know what he was like. I know loads about Nigel Farage. Trust me. Yeah, but I never wanted to go in on Nigel Farage because I knew a lot of Reform supporters and a lot of the public were believing in him. And I thought, well, look, I don't really care what he's like. If he brings a party and he's going to bring change. But then I saw that he just turned his belief on everything. And he had no principles. And I think, and that's what Elon Musk saw. When I was in prison, Nigel didn't have to defend me. He just had to say it's not right, because it wasn't right. I'm a journalist. I made a documentary. If there's a law that means I broke it, then that law's not right. It's not that I'm not right. It's bullshit. I showed the truth and got 18 months in jail and sitting on solitary confinement, and he tried to justify it. And I think that Nigel was invited to an inauguration. He flew all the way over there and sat in a room on his own. That's the reality. He was sidelined and airbrushed by the whole American establishment after his reaction, because they saw weakness and they saw someone that pandered to the establishment. He has never challenged them. He's friends with Tony Blair. He's friends with Keir Starmer. That's the fucking reality. Yeah? That's the reality. Nigel has wanted to be part of the establishment. I want to tear it down. It needs bringing down. Yeah? So that's the reality. Now, people, I never wanted to turn on Nigel, and because I knew people believed in him. So I tried to make a truce multiple times. I just said, stop lying about us. And then when I'm in jail, he took the opportunity to tell the whole country that I've got convictions for violence against women. Just a lie. So that is why I then saw our political movement, which is going to be, it's not going to stop. Yeah, it needs a political home, and it needs a home that's not going to betray them, and it needs and I found that in advance. And I don't want to be involved in party politics, and I've always said that, and I'll say it again. I don't want to. Yeah, but I want our movement to have a home, and I want the people that want to challenge Islam and have a voice against the Islamisation of Britain to not be kicked out of a party for telling the truth. And that's just what happened to the Reform councillor yesterday who spoke at the Epping protest. He's been kicked and suspended from Reform. Reform have brought in guidelines. You can't talk about transgenderism. So what if Reform get in and get elected? What's the difference? You've got a whole load of party members and politicians that were the Tories, that were the Labour Party, that were the Lib Dems, the same people, funded by exactly the same people, in the same position, and you've got them all gagged already, because they're not allowed to mention me, they're not allowed to mention Islam, they're not allowed to mention like Rupert Lowe had specifically mass deportations taken out of his speech by Nigel Farage. You want them to govern our country? No, he took the walls to fall out. So I'm sorry, the public are being led up the garden path. And if Nigel has no one in his background or in his wing mirror, he's not going to care. If he starts seeing the Advanced UK explode, which I believe they will, yeah, if he sees that they explode and they become a true representation for Britain and a voice for the working class in this country, if they do, which I want them to be, because I believe it's the working class who have been forgotten and neglected, it's us. And I believe that the disillusioned and disaffected community that don't vote, because Labour got in on 9 million votes, 20 million didn't vote. Why? I've always watched as a politician think, why are you not trying to reach them? Because no one tries to reach them. Nigel's not tried to reach them. Nigel's just going for the Tory vote. Nigel's not tried to get into those communities. Yeah, I think that we as a cultural movement are going to get into those communities. We're going to give them a belief. We're going to give them identity, and we're giving them something to do. And I hope that Advance, what we do, take that and champion it and give them a political voice and give them a political home. I think that we have got an army of activists waiting. And as I said, I don't want to do party politics, but I want to know that the movement that we've created and the movement of people who support us have a voice and are treated with respect and not treated with the total disrespect of what I saw him do to Rupert Lowe, what I saw him do. Do you know when I knew Rupert Lowe was finished in Reform, the minute he got allowed a round of applause at the conference, the Nigel. I knew he was finished. Who did I meet this week? I sat down and met this week, talk about Suella Braverman. Who was I with this week? Political figures. And he said the same. I said, well, why did Suella Braverman not become part of Reform? Because that was the plan, yeah? Suella's husband joined Reform. The plan was for Suella to step across. And then it ended. Why did it end? Because Nigel don't want any rivalry. Nigel doesn't want anyone. Nigel's ego is that big. He doesn't want anyone. He wants it to be Nigel's show. How are you meant to build a government or a party? Now, I say in our movement, you have to be pretty diplomatic. There's lots of people that probably may not like me. There's some people I don't like. No one would even know I don't like them. Yeah? Because you have to build a team. Nigel will never build a team, and he never has. That's what I believe. So I believe Ben Habib is the solution. I believe Advance is the solution. I believe, when are they launching? I love that they've picked Newcastle, because in all of my years of activism, Newcastle is the most patriotic city I've been to. So we found that with the English Defence League. So that's why I joined Advance. I want a political home for the movement. I don't want them to be portrayed or treated like bits of shit, like Richard Tice did and like Reform have done. The dismissive attitude of that party to our people, it angered me a lot. So, but again, let me make this clear. On September the 13th, you're not going to hear any conversation like this from me. Yeah, we're a free speech festival. I know there's going to be lots of reform supporters there. I'm not going to be putting them down. I'm not going to be talking about Nigel Farage at all. That's not my intention at all on September 13th. All right.
Tommy, thanks for saying that. Can I just say, by the way, I remember when Nigel said those things about you on LBC, I actually made a compilation video. One of your admin team actually got in touch with me and said, thank you for putting that together. I made like a compilation video of how many times you've kind of said, please, Nigel, stop having a go at my supporters and stuff. And he just kept on doing it. And you saw things like, I mean, Camilla Tominey turned around and called you a white supremacist. I mean, this is just nonsense. Like, it's not even like you know, 15 years ago, you might have been able to say, well, I don't know, I hear conflicting things. I mean, nobody thinks this anymore. Nobody in their right mind thinks this stuff anymore. But yet they keep on doing it. And I have no idea why. And by the way, I get like, you know, sick from reform supporters on X every day. I'm blocked by loads of them as well. Because but again, I sit there and I go, why are you angry at me for? I just point out what reform are doing, and they get angry that it's been pointed out to them. And I sit there and go, listen, I talk to people in reform all the time. Great people, real patriotic, hardworking people. But it's the people at the top who are letting everyone down. So, you know, how do we talk to reform supporters, members, in some cases, sadly, cultists, and convince them that, you know, stop believing this kind of claptrap you've been fed? How do we convince them that it's okay to say you're not happy with the way Nigel runs his party? And also, Tommy, can you just mention, I saw on the Lotus Eaters, you mentioned about that dinner. Can you tell everyone about that dinner, what you heard about what Nigel did?
Yeah, I can. So just so people know as well, just so people know, Nigel was the investigator. I don't know if people know this. So Marie Le Pen has been banned from standing for election for 5 years. Yeah, criminally charged. Yeah, and what they done to her, they done it because she was using the money from the members of European Parliament. Because you get a lot of money. It's just like a big gravy train. Yeah, they give you like hundreds of thousands for your team, so you can hire a team, and that's just to keep everyone happy. Yeah, they just flood you with money. So then Marie Le Pen allegation, which she's been convicted of, is that she was using the money raised by all the MEPs for the campaign at home. Well, that's exactly what Nigel done. Fact. Yeah. So Nigel was investigated in 2019. They dropped the investigation. Now, probably dropped the investigation coincide with when he stood his people down for the Boris Johnson election and let them have it. Yeah. And then stood back on Brexit. Probably, yeah. But I'm telling you, Nigel was under investigation. I spoke to Jared Batten. I spoke to all the people around him. Exactly what Le Pen done, Nigel done. He's never faced prosecution for it. Yeah? So I have lots of suspicions. I have suspicions over the appointment of Zia Youssef and the change in direction of the entire Reform Party since that point. Yeah, you can't talk about Islam. You get kicked out. Yeah. Now Nigel had a conference, a dinner. It was £25,000 a ticket for the head table. It was a fundraising dinner for Reform. The entire head table was Pakistani Muslims. So Pakistani Muslims were all forking out £25,000 to sit down with Nigel Farage. Why? Why does he? What's going on? You can't. Nigel Farage, and he literally held up the white flag in the interview where he says, by 2050, Muslims are such a dominant force in this country politically, you can't alienate them. Now, how do you not alienate Muslims? By kissing their ass, basically, and not upsetting them around Islam. If you talk the truth about Islam, you're going to alienate them. So what's Nigel saying is, we can't talk about truth about Islam. We have to basically just sit here and watch while the Islamic demographic replaces us, and we have to do it with a white flag. That's basically what Nigel said. Yeah. So that is not a leader. Now I understand Nigel, if he's a coward and doesn't want to stand up against Islam, because he'll have to live basically in a bunker like Geert Wilders does. Geert Wilders, the leader of Holland, has lived with 24-hour days, 7-day-a-week protection of armed officers with a team of 18 men protecting him every single day. When I went to meet him there to shut roads, to get us in, they shut roads everywhere just to get us in. You wouldn't believe the fortified defence he has. Yeah, that's because he tells the truth about Islam. Yeah. So Nigel wants to just be Prime Minister. He doesn't really want to bring change, because if you want to bring change, they're going to want to kill you. Yeah. And Nigel maybe don't want that. Maybe that's the reason why. Yeah. Maybe that's the reason why. But to condemn us for being brave enough to stand up against it, Nigel was rolled out each time to condemn me. When I went to jail for standing outside Leeds Crown Court, they had Nigel on TV to justify my imprisonment. He broke the law. He done this. When Elon Musk sparked the Free Tommy movement again, when I was in jail this time, they rolled out Nigel Farage to justify my imprisonment and try and educate America on while I was in prison, which has burned him massively. Yeah, but he come out on behalf of the establishment. When I was in prison, it wasn't hope not hate attacking me. The person who attacked me the most during my imprisonment in this last time was Nigel Farage. Why? Why was he on every talk show talking about me? Why was he condemning me? Why was he justifying my imprisonment? Why? Why weren't there no Labour politicians talking about me? Why Nigel Farage? Why did he have to take that stance and absolutely attack me rather than just saying, look, he shouldn't be, a journalist shouldn't be in prison for making a film. I don't really like the bloke, but he could have played it easy like that. He didn't have to burn me, attack me, and lie about me, but he did. Why? He was used as a political voice of patriotism to condemn me at a time when there was a movement growing to demand my release and tell the truth about what I was in jail for. And I just think Nigel damaged himself, if I'm honest. But again, even coming out, I didn't want to be at war with him. I've asked so many times, not even about me and my criminal convictions. So one of his MPs volleyed his missus in the head and went to jail for it. Nigel rolls around every day with a man who was put in prison for money laundering for the cartel. That's a fact. These things are a fact. I know. I've done my background checks on him. Yeah, I know who he rolls with. I know the groups. I know everything. I've got images of him with the bloke who's been in prison, who was done for laundering drug money for the cartel, money laundering. It's like, and then he's standing on TV trying to act like he's got the moral compass and I'm a scumbag. So yeah, but again, I don't really want to be. I think advance, and if I was talking to better people, I'd say the same. Just talk about yourself. Don't worry about Nigel. Nigel's digging his own grave with his bullshit little weak policies, and he flip-flops on every decision. Yeah, and I'm disappointed because I think you saw on the July 27th when everyone put their hands up for reform. I would have liked. I just wanted there to be a political movement for the country. We said if you change the culture, you change the politics anyway. We held that demonstration outside Parliament for 30,000 people, which has never been done in those numbers, 40,000 people. No one's done that in a peaceful manner. 3 days later, Nigel Farage changed his decision to move to America and work to stand for reform. He come back as leader of reform because of that, because he saw that. Yeah, change the culture, you change the politics. Then we had 100,000. Look at what Robert Jenrick's saying. Listen to all the politicians. We're going to do the same. So that was my goal. That was our intention, to control the narrative, control the media through an array of 20 podcasters and influencers to concentrate on culture and then hope the politics shifts with it and hope someone like Nigel Farage could lead that charge. But we've just seen total weakness and I don't have any faith in him. So that's why I looked at Ben Abiba, looked at Advance. I'd advise everyone to join Advance. I believe Advance are going to become the political home for the United Kingdom movement. I believe anyone who's in reform now is going to see the error of their ways. They're going to see the excitement and the enthusiasm behind Advance. And that's what I believe. So, and I want every bit of their success. And I hope that as that grows and as in a few months or 6 months or 9 months, I hope that Rupert Lowe sees that. Because I know for a fact that Ben Habib didn't want to lead Advance, which sometimes a leader is a man who didn't want to lead because, he hasn't done it for the ego. He hasn't done it for those reasons. He's been put, which is the same with Gerard Batten. Gerard Batten was convinced to lead UKIP. He was begged. And the reason why people ask me about Nick Tenconi, I respect Nick. I think he's become one of the best activists on the scene in the last year or two. He's absolutely brought fire, yeah, as I'm watching him. But the same people who were part of the NEC when the UKIP, when Nigel got them to expel Gerard Batten got 30,000 members. He quadrupled the UKIP membership. And he aligned the membership with the street movement of the DFLA. So there was a working class voice. In stepped Nigel. In stepped the establishment to destroy the party. Why would you expel the man who just quadrupled your membership? And the NEC done that because the NEC is the establishment and was controlled by the British establishment. And they wanted to make sure that UKIP never went anywhere, that there wasn't a voice for the working class. So the minute it looked like there was a voice and their membership quadrupled, in stepped Nigel to absolutely destroy it. And some of the people that were involved in destroying it, not all of them, not going to name them, are still involved in UKIP. And that is why, as I come out of jail and I was looking at things, I looked at UKIP because I thought Nick's very good, very strong, showing a lot of enthusiasm. And that's why I looked at Advance. And I know many of the people who have been put in the position in Advance is at the college. I think there's a great opportunity. People are like, yeah, but Reform have got the momentum. Yeah, well, Reform done that in 12 months, didn't they, really? Last 12, 24 months, Reform have done that. We've got 3 years to the election. You've seen Elon Musk's stance on this. You've seen the most important and the most wealthiest man in the world. I really hope that Rupert Lowe, because I think Rupert Lowe could be Britain's Trump, as I was watching, I'd love Rupert Lowe to, and I know that he was in talks, I believe, with Ben Habib. I believe they were in talks. I don't know. I personally think that Rupert probably sees himself joining the Tory party. That's what I probably think. And the Tory party probably will see their solution to their problem before the election is replacing Kemi with Jenrick and him partnering up with Rupert Lowe. But then again, it's just a Conservative party. It's the same frauds. Jenrick was in charge for 14 years. He was the immigration minister. He bought in all the hotels. So, yeah, he's saying the right things. Yeah, and he's saying the right things because he knows the culture's changed. He knows the public have shifted. So they're all going to start jumping ship. As there's a tidal wave of patriotism sweeping this country, politicians will want their position in power. So they're going to jump and start saying the things that need to be said. It's going to change. Things are coming. But can you trust them? I don't trust any of them. I don't want to see a new political party that just replaces with the same old. Like I saw the Dudley MP for Reform Now. It's the ex-Tory. So he's standing there and he's giving a speech about what a patriot is. And I'm watching it thinking, patriot? You've been in power. You've been in the Conservative Party for decades. How are you a patriot? You're a traitor. You're all traitors. Every one of you are traitors. You're not patriots. You're the reason that no one was allowed to talk. You're part of that machine. You are the establishment. I don't want to see Parliament. I don't think anyone cares. I'll be totally honest. I don't think anyone or any fear is put into Parliament by Nigel Farage getting into Parliament. Yeah, I don't think it is. I think that if Ant Middleton going to Parliament, some fear comes because they know you don't back down. I think if Katie Hopkins got into Parliament, it's going to cause fireworks. I think if I got into Parliament, it's going to cause a fucking shitstorm. Yeah, I think that, but none of us are politicians. None of us are part of that establishment machine. Whereas Nigel is. That's my opinion. And everyone he's surrounding himself, everyone, half the people, they're net zero enthusiasts, they're the funders, some of them are liberals. It's like, come on, man. It's just the same bullshit. So that's my opinion on it. I'm fed up of it. I think this country is primed for a political revolution. And we've got another uni party led by Nigel Farage, who's silencing and censoring what his own people say. He doesn't believe in free speech. How can you have a leader of a new political party that's going to be a populist revolutionary party that is censoring people on transgenderism and Islam? It's ridiculous. Every other country, could you imagine Marine Le Pen having a Muslim chairman who kicks people out for saying something about Islam? Could you imagine any other political party in Europe that's sweeping the Swedish, any of them bending the knee the way Nigel is? So no, advance for me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No.
Tommy, we're all looking forward to the 13th. Is the route still going to be the same? Tell us a little bit about the lineup and speakers and why you hit on the theme that you've decided to have. Have you got cake again?
You're on mute, Tommy.
Have you found your
Is he
cake
still there?
again?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no. I have got 3 bits of cake. I'm going to take a picture of it at the end. Just, well, I'm demolishing them. But no, I've got so the route is so when we met the police this week, we're still mustering and starting near Waterloo. The problem is if you come off at Waterloo, if everyone come off at Waterloo, you're going to be at the start on the muster, so you're going to be at the wrong end, yeah, and then it's going to flood the roads and fill the roads. So for the best result with the police, we want people to come off at Blackfriars Station. If they come off at Blackfriars Station, then you literally just walk over the bridge. Then you're coming in the right end of the muster point. So then from the start of the muster point, we will fill the entire road, the whole way from Stamford Street was it, that goes all the way up to basically by Blackfriars. Now, London Bridge is there as well. It's a little bit further, but you can get there that way. But the best way is just come off at Blackfriars. Now, if you've already made your plans for Waterloo, we're going to have stewards at all the train stations. If you've already made your plans, you can still come off at Waterloo. You just head straight up the road. You have to walk a big U to come back on yourself. We're going to put a map out showing that. And yeah, but literally, when you come off of Blackfriars, you'll get directed. And I seriously think the numbers are going to shock everyone, man. And then on the day, we've got some surprises as well on the day, which I think people are going to really like. We've got some surprises. We've got so many bands, man. So many bands and different musicians coming. There's like probably 6, 7 different bands, so many different songs. And I think that's important because it makes it fun. But each of the songs and the lyrics are to tell a story and send a message. So we've got a girl on the piano who's going to sing a song on behalf of all of us to the government. She's going to sing a few. But when you listen to the song, it literally is us talking to them. It's me. It's us talking to them about betraying us. So the words and the lyrics in each of these songs have an important meaning. It also makes it fun. We've got, as I said, politicians come in. Do you know the sad thing, again, which I'm a bit disappointed in this, because the sad thing is there's 650 MPs. Say we get 1 million Brits. Say we do. It's the biggest show of patriotism this country's ever seen. We have got MPs travelling from multiple European countries to come and talk to the British public. And we have not got one single member of parliament who's coming to speak to them. That is the detachment. Reform can act like they're populist. They can act like whatever they want to act like. Yeah, they're not. They're still towing the bullshit establishment line. And people say, well, he has to do that. Say like the people from Reform saying, well, Nigel has to do that. And he has to do that. He has to distance himself from your movement. Yeah. Well, Reform won't get 1 million people. The Reform couldn't hold the events we're holding. So why does he have to do that? He doesn't have to do that. We're not living in those times anymore. We're living in new times where the public don't buy this shit. And they want strong leaders. They want mass deportations. Like even Nigel's saying 600,000 people is going to deport. We had 600,000 to 900,000 people come legally this year. Legally. Yeah. What are you going to do about that? Right. And Reform's policy was 1 in, 1 out. Last year, that's what it was. That's what their policy was at the start of the election. When Nigel stepped in, their policy was 1 in, 1 out. Well, 500,000 Brits left last year. So that would mean that Reform are bringing in 500,000. We need negative immigration. We don't need 1 in, 1 out. Yeah. We need to stop it. So I don't know. But yeah, the event's going to be beautiful. It's going to be wonderful. We've got a couple of surprises. We've got some great speeches. I'm excited, if I'm honest. I want to hear Katie Hopkins' speech. I can't wait. I admire Katie and I listened to Katie and I was gutted that the last 3 when we've organised them. I don't know how many people know, but we held a meeting which was Katie Hopkins, Lawrence Fox, Calvin Robertson, Jeff Taylor. Who else flew in? Jordan Peterson flew in for the meeting. And this was a meeting where we talked and planned about how we could build a cultural movement. And if you look where we are now, we've built it. It's got identity already. United Kingdom. It's got a name. People feel part of it, and people are flooding to it. So I'm excited, man. I just hope everyone comes. I hope that we put on a day. I remember last time. I don't think I really took it in until afterwards, and we could watch the event afterwards to really understand what we just pulled off with total peace. And that is what would worry them. So I think that if we can stand there, if we come to the 13th and we're in the evening of the 13th and we've just successfully inspired this country to let people know they're not alone in the biggest gathering that any European nation has seen. It's never happened. It's a historic moment. And where do we go next? If we can do this, sorry, as I think you just said on here, you come to one on your own. Now your sisters are coming, your aunties are coming. That is the same story for everyone from our last events. Now, if everyone comes to this one and does the same, we have the ability, which the government will be terrified of, to plan more with millions or plan strikes. Or there's lots of different discussions we're all having about what do we do from here. They're all questions. Who's got the answers? We're establishing it. Again, there needs to be a political option, which will be advanced, running alongside, hopefully. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I think everyone else should be.
Tommy, thank you very much for answering those questions. While we've been going, obviously, I've had floods of questions been sent in by people, and we always try to let people's questions get asked of the guests that's on. Now, I'll be honest with you guys who are listening in, right? I got to 80 and I stopped counting, right? So I've kind of amalgamated them into like 4 or 5 because a lot of them were kind of repeated, okay? So Tommy, these are questions from the audience. If you don't want to answer them anything, that's absolutely fine. Just say not interested, we'll move on. It's no problem at all. But one of the questions we did get asked was on United Kingdom and what it's doing next. So people were asking, do you think you could ever see this maybe going to Ireland or to Scotland to try and G things up there, or even just helping people set up their own United Kingdom events up there?
Yeah, I feel. Sorry, one second. I got a cough, man. I think that I feel bad. There's United Kingdom and Scots. Each time, like so many Scots, Welsh. On this one, lots coming from Northern Ireland. The Republic of Ireland. You know, Republicans and loyalists are coming together. That's unheard of.
Amazing, isn't
They're
it?
travelling together to this event. So enemies, sworn enemies for 100 years, and all come together. But I think that I feel bad, but I also think the capital. I hate London. If I'll just be honest with you, I despise the place. I'd much rather. I love Newcastle. I think Manchester is the capital of the north. Could be a good city. I think Scotland needs it, but unfortunately, the importance of London, is huge in the world's eyes politically. So I think it's been very important for us to in these demonstrations to hit London. So going forward, I don't really know. I'm not going to answer. I don't have the answer at the minute. I understand people would like. We've managed to control 3 events in London. I remember when we took the UK Against Hate march in Manchester. I don't know if you remember it after the Salman Abedi attack. God, it was hard. The police stitched us up. They provoked trouble. They allowed trouble. There was trouble. I wouldn't want to take this movement to a city where I didn't think we could control it. Now, because of central London and there's not any housing and it's not within communities, it's away from any of the problematic areas. If we took 10,000, 20,000 or 100,000 people into Manchester city centre, there would be chaos. And I think that would be the same for many of the cities. And I don't want that. I want our message to be heard. I want it to be safe for the people that come. So I don't know. We've got lots of talks about this. We've got a meeting again on Tuesday. Again, this isn't a decision that I make. The United Kingdom has been formed by lots of brains coming together, lots of people making discussions about what we need to represent and stand for. And yeah, that's my answer, man.
Also, you mentioned obviously Newcastle. People have noted that you're going to attend. You said on the 27th of September. I believe obviously that's the Advance UK launch rally that you're attending there. But also apparently there's an event going on, an anti-migrant hotel protest, and some people said you might be attending there. Can you just clarify exactly what you'll be doing on the 27th?
No, the Advance UK. I think it's best that organically these protests outside the hotels are local community. I don't like say with Epping, I got asked again by some people there yesterday, if I go to Epping this Sunday, or if I go, everything becomes about me. It doesn't become about the community or the protest. And I know the problem might get that dire that they need numbers, and maybe that will change a decision. I don't know. But at the minute, I want the discussion around Epping to be about the people of Epping. And I think my presence turning up at these migrant hotels changes that debate and makes it about me. So, and I've wanted to go. As I'm watching it, I think I want to go. I want to be there. I want to be there to support people in these issues, but also, especially with September 13th coming up, I don't want to jeopardise that. I'm having to not go anywhere to put any risk because I don't want to ruin September 13th. There's been the last 2 big rallies. I haven't been there, have I? I've been in jail. So I want to be there. I want to march with people. I want to be part of it. I don't want to put any risk on it. So, but if I go to Newcastle, it will simply be for the launch of Advance. And so that's it.
Brilliant. There is a couple of questions about Rupert Law and Restore Britain. So have you joined Restore Britain, and what do you think of Rupert Law?
I think Rupert Law's great. I think he's great. Again, I don't know if he really. I think he's great. So that's my answer. I think he's brilliant. I think he's what politics needed. I think the way he manages his social media account is the best I've seen. So blunt, so straight talking. It's what people want. Nigel still thinks people want this politically correct bullshit. No, people want mass deportations. They want every single one of them rounded up and gone. It's not politically dangerous to say that anymore because the public want it. They don't just want it, they're demanding it. Yeah? That's what the country wants. So I think Rupert Lowe's good. I think he's strong. I don't know who's in his team. I don't know who's round him. I've never had a conversation with Rupert Lowe. So I don't really know. I just can only give my judgment from what I'm watching. I saw that he pushed Nigel Farage and Nigel Farage had to get rid of him. And that was because Rupert Lowe wasn't willing to back down or remain silent on what he believed need to happen. And what he believes need to happen, I think most countries support.
And obviously he started the Restore Britain movement, which Ben Habib joined as well, because you can join a party and the movement at the same time. Would you be joining Restore Britain at all?
I would join and would support it because I think that what they're about to do, I just saw that Lewis has got a job with them and they're about to open a whistleblower website, I believe, great. And I think, again, they can shift by having a movement and bringing in people from all the political parties. They can shift conversation, change the narratives. So I think what they're doing is very important, but they're not a political party that's going to be able to be voted on. Now, I think that at some point, coming close, Rupert Lowe needs to make a decision on where he goes. And I think that if Advance can galvanise enough support, that could persuade Rupert Lowe that his alignment with Ben Habib's party in Advance is where he should be. I think that would be a dynamite duo, an absolute dynamite duo. I think it would excite many people. It would really rock the political world, political situation in Britain if Rupert Lowe joined up with Ben Habib. And I think that I think that to have trust in the public, I think I'm just guessing. I think he may go to the Tories. That's what I think may happen with Rupert Lowe. I hope he doesn't. I really hope he doesn't. I love Suella Braverman. I respect Suella Braverman. There are some good Tories coming out now as well. Tories are, I look at and think, well, the Tories are stronger than Farage with what they're saying.
Yeah.
They're much more stronger. And by the next election, they'll be a lot more stronger with what they're saying. But I don't trust them. And I don't think anyone else does.
I think the Tories need to have that fight, that little civil war amongst themselves. Decide, do they want to continue down what they were doing before, which was destroying the country? Or
they need to get rid of all the Liberals that are in there that aren't Conservatives. They actually just need to be a Conservative party, which they never have been. They've been a Liberal party masquerading as a Conservative party.
Yeah, exactly. Right, there was 2 more serious questions. Look, I got a lot of questions from not just your fans, but also your detractors as well, who wanted to know about these. So I kind of amalgamated them. First one was, have your views on Israel changed at all?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, I support them more. No, listen. If I was Israel, if I was Jewish and I was Israel, just like if I was in England, and my country faced and was surrounded by jihadist nations, jihadist shitholes, then you have to be strong on that. Now, if Israel wanted to genocide the Gazans, they could do it in one button. They've killed 50,000? They could have killed them all. More people have died in Nigeria, Christians, that no one talks about. More people have died in conflicts everywhere that no one talks about. So I just look at the situation. I understand nothing's perfect, but I understand Hamas are the same mindset as ISIS. I understand jihad. And when you've got a country, how do you negotiate with them? And look at what Hamas said on October 8th. They said our goal is not just Israel, it's London, it's New York. If, say, for example, Palestinians win, Hamas win, the Houthis win, they all join together and they blitz through Israel, which is what they want to do. They rape all the women, they take them all as prisoners. This is what they said they'd do in the previous wars, The Islamic leaders around the country said, we're going to take all your daughters as slaves, because that's what Muhammad did. So say they did that, and they wiped Israel off the face of the map, and all the Jews are gone. This is their goal, because Hamas's charter says the final day of judgment does not come until every Jew is dead. So say all the Jews are gone. Do we really think that those Islamic nations and that Islamic mindset is stopping there? Do we think it stops there? Or it's coming straight for Europe? I think it's coming straight for Europe. So that's my view. Now, whilst we're on the issue of things, because some of them are absolutely comical, I was asked again today, but the limited company for the English Defence League said the Jewish Defence League, That's what people roll out, So I set up the English Defence League in 2009. I had a PA called Helen Gower. The Jewish division of the English Defence League was set up by a lady called Roberta Moore. Roberta Moore hated Hal Gower. Hal Gower hated Roberta Moore. So in 2011, Hal Gower, not me, set up a limited company. Now, she set up a limited company to try to brand the name, of English Defence League and Jewish Defence League. And she'd done that so that as a limited company, she could try and get Facebook to shut down the Facebook group of Roberta Moore. That's all it was. But all these people pull out saying there's a limited company. It was set up by Mossad. It's like, you fucking idiots. What are you talking about? And all of the stories that they go through, like even down to Millwall were playing Tottenham, probably 2013 or 12 or something. Now I went as Luton with Tottenham. Now that's a big hooligan rivalry game. And I was pictured there. And online, all the comments were coming out. What the hell's Tommy Robinson, Luton, doing with Tottenham? I've got a close friendship with a lot of Tottenham lads, and Luton have had a relationship with a lot of their youth for a long time. So, and I just put up underneath saying, I'm Jewish. Yeah. So when you put a combination of these things together, which is what they keep doing, the other thing is he's funded by the Jewish lobby. Yeah. So I might as well clear all these out, because I bet you're underestimating, Basil, how many questions you had about Israel. No.
Oh, yeah, there was more than a few. By the way, I get accused of being funded by Israel as well. And I just want to say, if Israel's listening, I will take your money. I'll take your money too.
But the thing is, I don't know a bad Jew. I don't know one. Any Jews I've met have been wonderful people, great people, loyal British citizens. I don't know any heroin-dealing Jewish gangs. I don't know any, because there aren't any. I don't know any Jewish rape gangs in England. I don't know any. And you know what? I know it's pretty easy to be against the Jews. No one wants to beat you up. No one's going to attack you. You're not going to get any flack. You're going to get loads of likes and comments of all the Muslims, all going to pat you on the back. There aren't. So the position I take, it doesn't get me any benefit. Yeah, but I don't give a shit. Do you know why I don't give a shit? Because I understand Hamas, and I've actually been to Israel. I actually went there and spoke to generations of Muslims who are in refugee camps, which most of the people who criticise me have never done. I also understand what the Islamic mindset is. So I understand what it's like to deal with that, yeah, because I've grown up in Luton. I also understand the Jew hatred that is in Islam. I get it. And I also understand the Jew hatred that is in the Nazis. I get that as well. So the two of them come together at times like this, and they hate on the Jews, and they blame everything. And it's an easy solution. So with regards to my Mossad funding, yeah, I worked for Ezra Levant in 2015. It was my first job as a journalist. There's a gentleman called Bob Shillman. Bob Shillman apparently is a funder of Rebel Media, Ezra Levant, for his... Now, if you look at the work Rebel Media had done, tell me a company that's done better journalism. Tell me a company that's woke more people up. They were the first alternative company. Ezra Levant, he showed cartoons of Muhammad. He woke people up. He gave me my first job. He's done great with journalism. I don't care if he's Jewish, yeah? And I didn't get on with Ezra when I worked for him. I really clashed with Ezra, because Ezra tried. I felt he was trying to control me. When I looked at it afterwards, he was trying to help me, yeah. But I'm a bit uncontrollable. I don't want someone to try and tell me what to do, because I want to do the opposite. But Ezra gave me a job. Now, Bob Shillman funded Rebel Media. So because Bob Shillman funded Rebel Media, that means I'm a Zionist, yeah? Now, anyone who earns money off YouTube, the owners of YouTube, I sat down, some girl asked me this in an interview. I said, right, okay, you get paid advertisement off YouTube, right? She said, yeah. I said, well, the two owners of YouTube are Zionist Jews, which means you're getting funded by the Zionist Jews. That's the same bullshit that you're putting on me. I have never had a penny. Bearing in mind, listen, I had the biggest financial investigation in 2021 when I declared bankruptcy. Just Google it. They searched every penny, every account, every money I've ever had. Hope Not Hate took over and privately funded a £200,000 investigation into my finances. If I was getting money from the Jews in Israel, don't you think it would have come out? Don't you think it would be there? And if the Jews run the bloody world and the media, they're doing a pretty shit job. Because at the minute, I couldn't believe I was in jail. This is how dangerous this shit is. He doesn't even think I was in prison. So for him not to think I was in prison, that means he thinks that Dominic Shresky, who visited me in prison, is an actor. It means he thinks Liam Tufts is an actor. Mayor Tusi is an actor. It means he thinks that every single person that visited me was part of some Mossad operation. That's the insanity of this madness. And basically, anything that's negative is the Jews. Now, I just don't buy that. I looked into, if you want to call it the Jewish question, yeah? I looked into it when it was all hitting off. And I looked at the funding from Hollywood, because people talk about the Jews in Hollywood. And I looked at the funding in Hollywood, which was 48% Jewish. And 98% of the funding from Hollywood, which means that 50% that aren't Jews, fund the same bullshit NGOs. They fund exactly the same. Now, are they doing it because they're Jewish? Is that the reason? Yes, some arseholes are Jewish. George Soros is a wrong one. But George Soros has done so much detrimental stuff to Jews. So is it because he's Jewish, or is it because he's a wrong one? So that's the question. I haven't met a bad Jew. I think most Jews are loyal to this country, most of the Jews I know. And when I went to Israel, I met some wonderful people who I value as dear friends. So I will never back down on my belief because people want to pressure me on it. And that's what there's been a mass attempt to do. And that attempt to do, I had it with the English Defence League. There was a massive attempt to change my direction of the English Defence League to be against all immigrants, to be against blacks. That was the attempt, and I fought that head on for 5 years. I had battles, I had fights, I had punch-ups, I had Nazis come to Luton, I had square-off punch-ups with them in the backs of pubs. We had clashes with different groups, and I did not budge. Do you know why I didn't budge? Because that was my belief. So I won't budge by people saying I'm funded or controlled by Mossad, because I don't care. Yeah, I know that Jews and Israel, if I had the history that they've had, and I was targeted in the way they've had, and nearly lost the whole of my population the way that they did, I would defend myself staunchly and would rise to that threat. Now, if Israel didn't defend themselves, they'd be massacred and raped on a daily basis. Yeah. So they're just because they're good at defending themselves and they're better than all these stupid barbarians and jihadists who don't have much. So yeah, that's my point on it. I'm going on a rant about it, but I just it's pretty frustrating when you see people, oh, why don't you put Britain first? Yeah, why? I've only answered this question about Israel because you've asked me. Yeah, when was the last time I held an event for Israel? When was the last time I made? If you go through all of my comments, like when, like how have I put Israel first? How have I ever put Israel first? So I see all these comments, but then when I look through the people, it's exactly the same. They have a strong hatred of Jews. So, and they blame the Jews for everything. They buy into the whole Jews control the world, Jews are flooding the world, it's all the Jews' fault. That Muslims are, most of them actually believe that most of the terrorist attacks haven't happened and they're false flags. And they're false flags in order to turn the British population against the Muslims. It's like, fucking hell, go back 400 years, you idiots. There's been jihad for 1400 years. What was that? The Jews as well? Was the state of Israel orchestrating attacks by Muslims for the last 1,400 years across the globe? So they just make excuses, and it's a pretty easy excuse for the Muslim community to make because they blame everything on the Jews. Yeah, oh, that's not us. Every time there's a terrorist attack, false flag. Yeah, false flag, it was Mossad. Oh, Mossad are going to do something now. Mossad are going to do something on September the 13th. Mossad are going to try and turn public opinion. So I see all that and I just don't buy any of it, man. So I find it pretty frustrating and pretty tiresome and pretty boring that there's continued. Like, I was wearing a Mossad t-shirt. Yeah, mate, I bought it from a souvenir shop. Do you know that picture? It's Brian in London. I saw his name pop up here. I can see him there. You know the picture of me on the tank? I'm wearing flip-flops. I'm in a pair of swim shorts, right? And we're going down the road and there's a tank. And I walk over the tank and say, mate, can I get a picture on this tank? I've never met the army. I'm not with any government. I'm just a tourist there. So I stand up and take a picture. That picture gets taken, which then spreads around the whole world. Yeah. So all of the stories, when I think if you actually knew the story behind that bullshit. So yeah, I know that's probably answered some of the questions because you probably got 1,000 of them. So again, if there is any Mossad listening, yes, I would take their money. I would. It would pay for our demonstration. I wouldn't have had all the bullshit I have. So, and then you also have to look at many of the. Yeah. Anyway, that's my point.
Well, Tommy, it's interesting because obviously, look,
in fact, one more thing, Basil. To the people who hate me and I'm Mossad and I'm all for the Jews and you hate the Jews and everything's their fault. Hold your own bloody demonstration. Like, do your own event. Stop moaning about what we're doing. Why don't you do an event yourself? Because you'll get 25 people. You'll all look inbred. And you will half of you be covering your faces. That's the reality. That's the reality. But they're very active online. So that's my point.
The thing is, I mean, obviously, I don't get nowhere near as smell this crap as you do, but the way I find it funny because obviously I've had some of it, and I just sit there and go, listen, I haven't even got an opinion on Judaism. I don't really know much about it. All I ever say is like, if I was Israel, like if we lived in Israel, British people, we'd be calling for fucking defense and wars against these people as well. Like, I always find it hilarious when, like, also quite sad that you see people on like Question Time and stuff and go and they criticize Israel for like fighting the war when it's like, well, what if it was your kids that were getting rockets thrown at them? Like, it's obvious to me you'd want to destroy that place. Like, you know, people, it's easy for people when they're so far removed from the conflict to sit there and go, well, what we should do, like it's some kind of computer game. It's not. These are people's lives.
And now they want to give Palestine a state. It's like, would you give, just simple question, would we have recognised ISIS having a state? Would we have?
No.
No. So why are we recognising Palestine having a state when the majority of the Palestinian population voted for Hamas, who are fucking ISIS? Yeah? They're terrorists, and they care more about killing the Jews than they do about furthering their own family's goals. That's what they care more about. So I understand that. I understand Islam, and that's my. And I don't understand enough about Judaism. I've never gone down the rabbit hole on Judaism because I don't care about it. I don't see it as a.
Never had to.
Mm.
You never had to. Yeah, exactly. And like the closest we ever came to defeating like a fanatical army. I mean, Winston Churchill actually said he recognised the fanaticism in the Nazis because of the fanaticism in Islam he'd seen in Africa, right? And that is the closest we've came to fight. And we absolutely destroyed Germany. We took it over. We broke it up. You know, I mean, we didn't turn around and say like, you know, have your own state. I mean, they were gone for like nearly 100 years before it came back.
Mate,
you know,
Palestine's had 3 times as much money as Germany did after the World War. There was nothing left of Germany. Germany rebuilt a beautiful economic country, and Palestine will live in bloody shelters because they spend their money on rockets and war because they're more intent that they'd rather be killing the Jews than prospering their own people. That's the reality.
Okay, one more question from the audience that came in, and it was a kind of a one that was many of your critics as well. Oh, actually, just before that, sorry, I've just got to ask quickly. People did ask, this song, Come One, Come All, are you releasing this as a single? Will people be able to buy it and stuff like that?
That is a lad. We Are Patriots. That's his YouTube channel. It's his song.
Yeah.
It's not our song.
Ah, right. Okay.
He made the song, but he said we can play it. So the band, Ricky Doolan and the church band, have learned it to sing it. We're going to thank the lads at the event. I think it would be great if it was released. Maybe I'll put that to Ricky now, and the money can go to the gentleman who founded the song, and maybe he could release it on iTunes. We could try and get it in the charts on the day. It's a good idea. We've got lots of songs. There's another song. We've got a Canadian band coming. We've got lots of funny. I've got a mate. I've got a mate who just comes Luton games, who's a good singer, so I'm going to let him sing a song as well.
Friends, yeah, benefit of being
get the crowd going, son. Come on.
I was just going to say as well, by the way, a load of people sent in things to me. I don't know why they didn't send it to you because your DMs are open, but they sent it to me trying to say, can you pass this on to Tommy? And some of it looks like it's quite interesting from a journalist point of view. So just to let everyone know, I will pass these on to Tommy, and whether he reads them or not, that's up to you, mate, right? But I will pass the ones that I've seen. Right, the other question that we got that was quite kind of, a lot of people were, some were criticizing you, some were just genuinely interested, right? It was, and by the way, this is a confusing question because so many political parties haven't really nailed their colours to the mast on where to draw the line here. So where do you stand on deportations, and who should be deported from this country, do you believe?
Every single illegal immigrant should be deported from this country. Every single foreign criminal should be deported from this country. Every single dual national who's on the terrorist watch list should be deported from this country. Every single person that knew from the Islamic community that grooming was going on, that has dual nationality, should be deported from this country. Every fucking Keir Starmer should be deported from this country. Nah, mate, they all need to go. And you see, and you see, when we get to remigration, anyone who's come and been given asylum into this country, who is from a country that is no longer at war, that is safe, it's time to go for many of them. Yeah? It's time to go. The Islamic community is not going to work in this country. Yeah. Now, if there's British Muslims that are born here, I don't want to deport them. That's it. I don't want to deport them. But if there are members, say, for example, if I was looking at Germany and we took in 1 million Syrians and those Syrians left because of Assad, well, Assad's gone, which means they're in the opposite side to Assad, which means their side are now in government. Well, they can go back. That's 1 million. I don't care if they've been granted asylum. They were granted asylum under the conditions that there was a war in their home nation. There's no longer a war in their nation, which means they no longer need to reside here for safety. They can go back. Yeah, that's it. So I think there needs to be mass deportations.
a lot of people would push back on that. I'm just playing devil's advocate here because obviously, I mean, look, I know you've addressed before. There's ethno-nationalists on Twitter who sometimes say, yeah, you know, it needs to be just a white Britain or whatever. And that's very, very different. But there's a lot of people who I would say are kind of much more pushing towards now the idea that, well, look, if you're a legal migrant here, but you haven't really integrated, you're not working, should they all kind of go as well? Have we lost Tommy?
If migrants have come here and
Oh, go on.
if migrants have come here and they're on the benefit system and they're bleeding this system, then they should go back to their home country. That's it. They should go. Why would we be paying for people from other countries to sit, not work, and drain a benefit system, drain our NHS when we have our own problems? Yeah, they should go as well.
So what do we do about Islamic communities in this country, which, you know, there's some areas of this country that are completely unrecognizable now. I mean, like Savile Town, for instance, 98% Muslim, where a lot of them will be British born as well, but they want to hold on to the kind of Islamic culture, the Muslim beliefs, and all the rest of it. What do we do about places like that, do you think?
Ban Sharia, outlaw and make it difficult to follow that interpretation of their ideology. Stop the funding. Don't allow the segregation that we allow. Shut down the madrasas. Encourage them to leave Islam. Encourage them to experience freedom. Encourage them to be British. Encourage them to love this country. But yeah, you could make. There's so much we could do. So much we could do which we don't do. The Tablighi Jamaat Mosque should be shut down. That's the main mosque in Savile Town. That should be shut down. That's a radical mosque. All the mosques in this country, all the jihad we've seen, all the attacks, the encouragement, we've never shut one of them down. They shouldn't be shut down, really. So after the attack in Manchester, what was the mosque called? Dewsbury? No, what was the?
Didsbury, wasn't it?
What was it?
It was Didsbury
Didsbury Mosque. Should have been knocked down. They should have knocked it down and flattened it. So that mosque had preacher after preacher. It had Abdul Quick, it had Abdul Rahim Green, it had. So when I went through after the attack in Manchester, I looked through Manchester and the problems in Manchester, and I went to Didsbury Mosque, which is where Salman Abedi went. And when I walked in there, there was a leaflet and it said, "The music made me do it." So I took the leaflet and I looked at the leaflet. It was given out by an Islamic charity in Birmingham. And I looked at how many they distributed, which was tens of thousands to mosques around this country. And then I read the leaflet. The leaflet spoke about the satanic side of music and basically young music idols. And it was basically encouraging against Ariana Grande, which is actually what he went and blew up. And then I looked, and when I went up the mosque, I went there to question them. And it had a big sign outside which said, "We love Manchester." Like, they're just taking the piss, absolutely taking the piss. They've got a radical hellhole of a mosque, radicalising the community to hate us. Many of the speakers they've had encourage death to apostates, encourage death to homosexuals. They've got all this going on. Then they've got a big sign saying, "We love Manchester." And then the police went out after the attack and had this is how ridiculous it is, had their photos taken with the leaders of this mosque. I went up there to question the mosque, started looking into them. What should have happened after that attack? That mosque should have been bulldozed. That's what they should have done as a government. Bulldozed the mosque and deported every member of his family back to Libya. Any of them. Yeah, that's what should have happened. It didn't happen. Instead, the police went and took photos. They probably got more funding to probably try and stop the extremism. They're just laughing at us. They're laughing at us. I don't know if you saw recently, there was a mosque. There was a Tunisian who had been in France 40 years, and he held up the French flag and said that it was satanic or something like that in the mosque. Within 12 hours, his door was kicked off and he was deported from France within 12 hours. Yeah. So why is that happening? Because Le Pen's on the rise. Because the Front National are marching. Yeah, that's why it's happening. And Macron's under pressure because he knows that the next election they're losing because of the level they've allowed the Islamic extremists to get to. So would that happen in the UK? No. So there's lots that we could be doing and should be doing as a government, but you could start with just at least deporting and trying to address, like even Nigel Farage now saying that it will give benefits for more than 2 children. When that policy was brought in, my local imam has 3 wives and 14 children. Now, the people having 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 children is predominantly the Islamic community. And that's being paid for by us. So they're quite happy to sit there on benefits and have 10 kids. So then the Conservative Party brought in a policy to try and, when it was brought in, I thought, right, at least they're trying to address that by making it no benefits more than 2 children. Nigel Farage steps in, Wazir Youssef, and says he'll undo that. Why would he undo that? Why would he encourage people to have benefits for 6, 7, 8 kids? Because we know who's having benefit. We know who's having the 6, 7, 8 kids. It's not us. but it's not us. So yeah, there's so many things that we could do as a country to address the Islamization of this nation. Stop the funding from Qatar straight away. Cut Qatar off from this country. Qatar has spent £750 million radicalising European Muslims, building Islamic ghettos, encouraging it. There's so much we could do. But anyway.
Can I ask you a question? Though, again, playing a bit devil's advocate here, right? Because before we go to the final question, why I say, because I just want to say thank you very much for giving all your time, and I really do appreciate it. But I really find this question interesting. Do you think there's any validity? And by the way, I am playing devil's advocate here, right? This is not my position, but do you think there's any validity to when sort of ethno-nationalists or people who are a bit more hardline than you say, listen, demographics are destiny, and you know, at the end of the day, if we don't kick all the Muslims out or ban Islam, they will eventually just become the population of the UK. Do you have any sympathy with those views at all, and think maybe we do need to be a bit more hardline?
Yeah, I totally have sympathy with those views. But that's not what they're saying, these ethno-nationalists. What they're saying is let's kick everyone that's not white out. And then you have to look at the demographic birth rate, and then you have to look at the country. Then you have to look at what the sacrifice that the good immigrants have give to this country, which is many of my friends. I put a picture up of my friends yesterday from a wedding that I went to for my school friends. Yeah? So many of my friends who are born here, black lads, are English, are British, class themselves as English, class themselves as British, join the Royal Marines, hard-working, good family men, integrated, assimilated. Those ethnics want them deported from our country. That's the reality. I watched Steve Laws do an interview with a white girl who had a mixed race baby, and he said, "I'd deport your baby." A little child was standing there. "I'd deport your child." That for me is just wrong, yeah, and not just wrong, but as I said, I've got my mate. Say like my mate Isaac served in the Royal Marines, 8 years, great lads. What? So you deport him, would you? You deport all these people who have integrated and assimilated. Where do you draw the line there? Is it just based on colour then? So would I be deported because my mum come from Ireland? Would I be deported in that sense of immigration, or is the FNAT basis, which is what I hear from them? No, everyone who's not white has to go. Then I look at the demographical change. Only under the recent, there's been mass Indian immigration under Rishi Sunak, under Rishi Sunak's government. But I look at the population demographics, and I believe if there was no Islam in this country, we wouldn't be having any discussions about immigration. We wouldn't. It would be such a minor number, yeah? Such a small number. Because now, that's what I think, if we had no Islamic immigration. But I still believe right now, whereas I didn't used to believe, that we need to end all immigration. We need to end and limit the numbers because we have to address the demographics of this country. We have to address the demographical change. But let me tell you, whites, blacks, Sikhs, Hindus are not demographically changing this country at the accelerated rate that Islam is. Islam is the problem for me, which is what I talk about. And it's the problem because most of those other communities have come here, integrated and assimilated pretty well. And I'll say every group of English lads, every group of white lads I know has black members or mixed race members in their family that they love, that have integrated, that have assimilated. But the FNATs would want to deport them. That's where I have a problem because they're talking about people I love. So I do have a problem with that. But I do understand, and I think that unless we address the demographic replacement, which is what's happening, unless we address that, you leave it open for the only people who are talking about it are FNATs who have some pretty radical views. And what I love about the United Kingdom movement, which is what we're going to see next weekend, is that we are unifying those great people that have come to this country. Those people that come here hardworking, to do well, to embrace, to love the flag, to become part of it. Yeah, I don't want them people deported.
Tommy, thank you very much for answering all the questions. Just before we go to the final question with YC, I just want to say a big thank you for you giving up your time, because you give us way longer than what we originally agreed. It's been a fascinating conversation, mate. I just want to say thank you ever so much for doing this. YC, would you want to go with the last question?
I do, and thank you so much. You've been brilliant. You're just an amazing man, and I think you've been very brave for this country, and we're very grateful to that. You have you have kids. I've got kids. I've got a grandchild now. What's the one thing that keeps you awake at night, that worries you the most about what's going on in this country?
There's lots that worries me. I have different worries, don't I? My daughter wanted to go to college. I couldn't let her because because the colleges she would go to are Muslim So I had murders when she left school, because it's like, darling, I don't think you understand what that means for us. So my worries are, what pathway do my children have? I'm worried now for my son. So that's my worries, because I've been worried all the time. I worry every time they go out. I worried when I was in prison. I had a situation in prison. A car pulled up to my daughter, which was walking down the street, all to do with me. So these are the worries that I have. I worry for my kids, and I worry the vulnerability situation that they're put in, and how vulnerable they are. So they're my worries. They're worries I've constantly had and have to somehow try and manage, as well as letting them have their lives and wanting them to be successful in their own paths in life. I don't think. Do you think companies, if my daughter was going for a job at certain places, do you think if they knew it was my daughter, she'd be getting a job? My family have to pretend they don't know me. I have to not have any involvement in where they are or works. That's the life I have to live. So they're worries I have. I have worries that my stance on life has affected them and will affect their futures. That's my worries. I have these sorts of worries all the time. And I had these worries when I was in jail. I was losing my mind over stuff when I was in jail. Over my daughter's at an age where she goes out to pubs and bars and that. And I think, well, if one of them know that's my daughter standing in the pub, so I'm worried other people are going to say it's my daughter. I was going to say that's this, that's that. So I have all these worries. That's what, they're problems for me, man. So sometimes I think I should have picked my kids up and I should have moved them out of this country a long time ago. But then they're at the age now where, I don't want to upheal their life, but I also want them to be safe. And then I'm under the thought that, where's this country headed? Where does it head for me? If we continue on this path, I think the risk to me is going to increase severely as this country heads into clashes. Who's going to be the number one focal point against them? I think of all these things. Where is it going? Where's it going for my kids? Where's it going for my family? What's it look like for them? What's it look like for them? So I have all these worries. They're my worries.
And that's why we all need to get behind you now, because I think the sacrifice you've made for this country is one that we need to repay now. So thank you so much. I look forward to being on with you all again on the 13th. I think it's going to be a breaking point, but in a really positive way for this country. And I just can't thank you enough personally for everything that you have done and the sacrifices that you have made. So thank you so much again for the time that you've given us this evening. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say,
everyone.
I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's tuned in and listened to this. Just to let you all know, you can follow the It's Only Politics account, which is in the top left-hand corner of your screen right now. We have got more guests coming on, a major, massive guest coming on later this week, but obviously we'll keep that until maybe later in the week before we confirm it's definitely happening or not. So obviously, if you like these kind of interviews, follow the account, follow me. Obviously, I'm sure everyone already follows Tommy, and that will be fantastic. I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to everyone who tuned in to listen, to everybody who sent in questions, to my co-host, YC, but also a massive thank you to our special guest tonight, Tommy Robinson. Thanks, Tommy.
Cheers, everyone. I'm on another one now. I was meant to be on one at 10 o'clock. I'm just looking at the time. I've got about 100 messages. So I agreed to some other space. So I'm going to jump. It's a space called Unite the Kingdom. So I don't even know who it's on. So I'm going to jump in and have a chat with them and let them down, man.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure everyone will jump across there now to listen to that, Tommy. Brilliant. Right, everyone. Cheers. That's it for now. But obviously, later in the week, we have got more live guests lined up. I wish I could tell you all about them, but I can't quite just yet. So stay tuned. You will find out more as time goes on. If you want to catch Tommy, you've just heard he's going into another space, Unite the Kingdom. Go and have a listen to that. I'll probably go over there and have a listen as well. But for now, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Everyone have a good week. Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.